Hey guys, welcome back to Plow and Pantry. I'm Alicia if you're new here, and today I thought it would be a good time to talk to you about seed organization for planting, which for me is different than seed organization for storage. I'm sorting seeds today to get them ready for planting. Thought I'd bring you along to show you how I do it. I am distinguishing here between seeds for organizing seeds for storage versus organizing them for planting because I do it two different ways. This is how I organize them for storage, and this is nothing new. You've probably seen this before on the internet. These are those photo cases, and each one has one of these things in it that you put seed packets in, and I have a basket for larger seed packets that don't fit in these. But the advantage of organizing your seeds this way for storage during the off season is so that when you are looking for a specific seed or wanting to put a specific seed back, it's really easy. I can go to my tomatoes. If I'm looking for a tomato, if I want to know, do I have beefsteak seeds? I can go to my tomatoes. Or if I find a random seed packet in my UTV or somewhere, which happens far more often than it should, then I can easily put them back. And then in the spring, winter, when I am like going through seed catalogs and looking online and making my wish list, I can also go back to here and look and see, do I already have that? And so it makes it easy to find. It makes it easy for me to go through. For example, let's say I want to grow more kale this year, and I can just look right in here and see, I have this kind of kale, this kind of kale. I've got 2 packets of this kind of kale. Do I need any more kale at all, or am I looking for a specific one to see if I have it because I want to try it? It makes it really easy. However, when we go to plant things, it is a whole different story. And the first year that I had space and the stuff to start varieties from seed, I kind of sorted through stuff like this. But here's the problem. When you go to start things from seed, they start from different times. So here's what I do. I have laid out here sticky notes that I just hand wrote. I looked at my calendar real quick. I counted back 12 weeks from my last frost date, what I consider my last frost date, because I think I'm a little more accurate than I'm always told it's April 15th if you look at the things, but we frequently, not always, in the 6 planting seasons I have lived here, we have only had our last frost before or at April 15th one time. We've always had one after. And so I use May 1st as my date, but when it comes close to May 1st, that's like my big planting day. When it comes to May 1st, I actually look ahead in the weather and see, is there a chance? Because we have gotten frost in May. In fact, the old timers around here will say they plant around Mother's Day, which is about 10 days into May. And so I will look for that and plan accordingly, because you don't want to raise these seedlings and then have them die out in frost. What I do is I look for the day, May 1st, on my calendar, and I double check for me to make sure that that is a day that I think I can plan. This year it's a Thursday. That's a good day to plant for me. So I will make a sticky note for each week, starting with week 12. I will count back 12 weeks, which is February 6th for me. And I will put a 12 on a sticky note and just the date. And then I will look at every Thursday, like going closer and closer to May 1st. So I have a sticky note here, numbered 1 through 12 with a day on it. Then I sort my seeds according to these dates, because your seeds have different starting dates. Looking here like at lettuces, let's see. I don't want to plant that this year, strawberry spinach. If I wanted to plant this one, it says sow indoors 3 to 4 weeks before frost, right? So I could look over here and look at my 3 to 4 weeks, and I can decide which of those I want. I'm going to go 4 weeks ahead. This is another, I'm going to stick it in a pile here. Let's stick with this information first. And I start sorting my seeds into piles based on what I'm going to start them from seed. Now, most variety packets will have a range, like 6 to 8 weeks before last frost, or 10 to 12 weeks. They won't be an exact week. And there's a couple ways I handle that. One is by experience. For example, I know there are people around me starting tomatoes 12 weeks ahead. I don't do that. In fact, I go closer to the 6-week mark rather than the 8-week mark, even though that's the range for tomatoes, 6 to 8 weeks. And I go closer to 6 weeks. I don't mind them being fairly small. And I have found in my experience where I am that my seedlings will still get plenty large enough to transplant out there. I want to be able to seed my things into seeding trays. I expect to pot them up once into a 3 or 4 inch pot, and I don't want to have to keep repotting them into quarts and whatever. I also believe that most vegetable varieties do better if they are transplanted young versus older. They acclimate a little bit faster. Almost every plant's going to take close to a 2-week transplant shock period to adjust out there, and I just prefer using a young plant that can adjust and adapt easier. The other thing this does for me is it allows me to know ahead of time when I am overseeding, like over planting. I always do that with 1 or 2 varieties. I have a feeling when I get to my green beans this year that I'm going to be looking at them going, yeah, I really don't have room for 6 different types of green beans, and it helps me decide what I'm actually going to get planted this year. In addition to that, doing this helps me not miss any seeds. There have been times when I just try to ruffle through the seeds I have, and I think I've gotten all the ones that need to start by a certain time, and then later on I encounter a seed packet and I was like, I did not get those started in time, and it's too late now. So there's a lot of reasons that I get these sorted by the weeks I need to plant. So I'm going to get started doing that, and then I'll show you what I do next. While I'm doing this, another thing I'd like to mention is that if I don't know how many weeks, if I like the farther end or the closer end, I will usually seed it closer to the farther end. That way I have a chance. I can repot it if I have to. I can make sure that it's there in time. I can, if there's something that doesn't come up, I can re-sow it. I have got time to try again. So I don't usually sow a whole packet of seeds for most things. I also have a basket sitting right here for a couple things. Some of these are things that I don't seed right away, like anything pumpkin, I don't seed until June, July, because I want it for fall, whereas these will tell me to put them out a few weeks, like to start it 1 or 2 weeks before the last frost. I don't want to start it that early. I want fall pumpkins. And then occasionally I come across seed packets that don't have the information of how many weeks, and so I put them in here so I can look it up online and come back and sort them with everything else, which is why I really love companies that have good information on their packets. Some of these are also direct sow. My peas, for example, I put one here to remind me on this date. These will say sow in early spring as soon as the soil can be worked. And so I know that 6 weeks before in March, I'll have plenty of frosts and maybe a freeze or 2 left, but it's also warm. And for me, that's just kind of the best time that peas work out for me. So I put one packet here. It'll be direct sow instead of seeding, but it will also remind me to get all my other direct sow peas and do that at the same time. Another tip, I also tend to keep any tags that are in good enough shape to reuse them. I keep them in here with the seeds. Okay, now that I have all my seeds sorted that I think I'm going to plant this year, I have a basket of seeds, varieties that I plant after the first frost, and these are mostly things I direct sow, like peanuts, sunflowers, a later planting of beets, some corn, even a lot of cucumbers. Anything I'm going to direct sow other than peas is usually after the first frost, so I just keep this with the first frost tag. It gets planted sometime in May. So next thing I do, I just use these baskets that I got at the Dollar Tree. I use them for a lot of different things. And then I don't have to worry in the garden if they get dirty, they're easy to clean, stuff like that. I have rubber bands. And I'm going to start over here on my 1 week pile. Stick that sticky note on the front, wrap it in a rubber band, and put it in the back of this basket. Some piles are bigger than others. There are around the 6 to 8 week range is a lot of stuff, so that's totally fine. And sometimes there are several things. Here's my week 2. Stick it on there, wrap it up. There are several things that might be the same. For example, peppers and tomatoes are both usually in the 6 to 8 week range. And I will do tomatoes 1 week and peppers the next week just because it's easier for me, because those are both things I plant a lot of. So it's easier for me time-wise to separate those out and both in the range. Got my week 3, so I'm working forward from the frost date towards the present day. And the reason I'm doing that is so that when I go to seed these, I can grab from the front of my basket, and just grab the one in front. And then I can start putting those in seed trays. Makes total sense, right? I'm on week 5, and this will take 2 to 3 baskets for me, but I usually have about 1,000 seedlings by the time it's all said and done. If you count direct sowing, there's more than that, but I'm not counting direct sowing. But this helps me keep all the stuff together that I want to sow at one time. And I do, if it's something I direct sow during the seed starting time, I also will go ahead and put it in here. Like peas are in here for week 6. Some of this will go in seed trays in week 6, but that also reminds me that same week that I need to get those in the ground. That's not, you don't have to do it. I put a date on here to be generalized. You don't have to do it on the specific date. Anytime that week, and usually the week before or after is fine. I do find myself sometimes, but like a week behind, and I will seed two trays of different things. Okay, so that's 1 basket. I've got weeks 1 through 7 there. I did have to go remember to find envelopes of things I've have an experiment I'm working on, and I also will sometimes slip a little index card in here. Got my tag. This is week 8. I'm doing my peppers. I will sometimes slip an index card in there to remind me if I have a seed packet in the fridge or freezer, because some varieties of plants need to be cold striated, and to me that's just the easiest way. When they arrive, I just stick them in the fridge or freezer depending on what they are, and then it's no problem to just go get them out. 10. I only have a couple things. 1 thing for week 11. I'll probably end up doing this another week. And week 12 is the one I will be starting. I will start some of these today. Onions and what else is here? Some Lysianthus. I need to reread my info thing from Johnny's about Lysianthus and what the tips are. Okay, so then here's what happens. I've got these 2 baskets. This one's full and this one's not all the way full. Okay, so this week I will just pull out 12 from the front. Next week I will pull out 11 from the front. The week after that I will pull out 10 from the front. And I will just seed those that week. And I do mostly just make it a routine during that time. I put these dates on Thursdays. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. It's not that big of a deal. But I just make it a routine on Thursdays. You know, part of my morning routine usually when I get up and I get like all the stuff ready for the kids for school and breakfast made and all that. And I get dishes swapped and laundry started. And I'll get the seed tray out and fill the seeds. So that is how I get my seeds organized specifically for planting, not just for regular storage. And I will keep these nearby as well. I usually get to these a week or 2 after the regular planting. It's kind of funny how that big mess on the table looked like so much and it turned into 2 not full baskets. Anyways, I hope that was helpful to some of you. I know some of you are starting seeds for the very first time. You're used to buying the plant starts at the nursery, which is where I always suggest people who are new to gardening start, because this is more equipment and its own different ballgame. But one of the things I enjoy about starting from seed is that there are a lot more varieties available to you, and you can really start looking for things based on flavor or certain conditions from your growing area, certain types of resistance to certain diseases that might be more prevalent in one area than another. Anyways, I hope that was helpful to some of you guys. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I will see you on the next one.